Hello, and welcome to episode 12 of the Kicking Back podcast. Today I'm joined with Griot Gabriel, a poet and spoken word artist from Manchester. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. I am also joined with the usual suspect at the back, Matthew Campbell.
Hello, Brad. How's it going, man?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
Really good.
Good. So, Griot, let's kick this bad boy off. For people at home that don't know who you are, do you want to give us a little explanation about what it is you do?
Yeah. I'm a spoken word artist. I do spoken word in Manchester, around the UK. I just like to share kind of my experiences, my thoughts through the art of poetry with rhymes. Been heavily influenced through kind of black culture, rap, grime. And yeah, just hope to drop some bits of gems and knowledge along the way and see how we can make a difference and put my own twist on things.
Yeah, man. I love your stuff. I mean, George recommended me to you ages ago, and I checked out your stuff. I was like, definitely getting this guy on.
It took so long to get me on it. Yeah. That's how much you liked me. No joke.
So, how long have you been doing the spoken word stuff for?
Probably started about 10 years ago.
Right.
But I've been on and off for a while. Had a son in between that. Went to uni. And yeah, just been on and off, and probably in the last year or two, I thought, let's get serious.
Right, yeah.
Let's share as much stuff. I had a lot of stuff written, just stashed in my notes, and I thought, yeah, let me push a lot of the stuff out this year. And kind of with COVID happening, it gave me a bit more free time to write, to share, to record stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and sharing my stuff, I find myself in this lovely room with you guys.
Yeah, man. It's great to have you here, man. It's great to have you here. So what kind of kicked off wanting to do it then? Was there like a particular, I don't know, have you been a musical person in the past or?
I think growing up as a kid, I always had a connection with music.
Yeah.
I remember my mom on Saturdays, she'd be cleaning and just putting on a CD just listening to it, whether it be some African church music or some Tracy Chapman, which was one of the first CDs I listened to as a kid.
Nice.
And always had that kind of connection with music, and I've always had a skill, I should say, or a desire to write as well.
Right.
One of my earliest memories, I remember being in school and my teacher saying, I think I must have been about 11, and she must have said I got a reading average of like an 18-year-old, or reading and writing average. And at the time I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. But I think he was trying to say that, yeah, I could write well.
Right. Yeah.
And then being in church as well, growing up in church, they were very passionate about you using what skills you had to perform or to share your skill. And then that was around the time when I started writing poems and performing on stage in church.
Oh, nice.
So I got to give a big shout out to my youth pastor, who was always pushing me to write and to perform.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a start. And then kind of becoming a youth worker as well, seeing experiences of young people living in Ardwick alongside. And again, being a black man as well, being a black boy, all those experiences that come with that, and infusing those experiences with my writing is the Griot, is why you have the Griot and the content that I write about and speak about.
Yeah, man. It's really, really good. It's great stuff.
Thank you.
The name Griot Gabriel, where did you come up with that?
Yeah, so when I was studying Black history, I learned that in ancient African civilizations, a griot was a poet that would go from village to village, and his task was to try and educate the people of the time. So when I heard that, I thought, oh, that's kind of like what I'm doing in this modern time. And the alliteration of the GG, Griot Gabriel, which is my name, I thought, yeah, that sounds really good. I'll put that together.
Yeah, man.
And yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you.
So where did you study Black history then?
It was a module at the MMU campus.
Okay. Yeah.
Linford Sweeney, who was the lecturer at the time.
Right.
Which was really cool, yeah.
Right. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. Are there like particular people, like any poets or artists or anything like that you sort of draw influence from when you're writing?
Yeah. So Tupac is a big influence for me. quite a few of my poems, I make reference to Tupac.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether it's The Rose That Grew From Concrete, or other stuff. And he was all about kind of black liberation. He was very politically voiced. And I can see a lot of his kind of, his passions in the way I write. Nas also, as a lyricist, amazing lyricist. Love his work. In the UK, George the Poet, he's probably one of the biggest UK poets around who talks on kind of social issues.
Right, okay.
Really like George the Poet. I actually got to see him in Manchester a couple of years ago. As well as Akala, who I call him Uncle Akala.
He's great, man. I read his book.
Natives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Really,
amazing.
really interesting
Amazing.
read. Yeah.
We had the luxury of getting him down to our youth project a couple of times, actually.
No way.
Yeah, in 2015, he come to my youth project, shout out M13, and he sat with us for 2 hours, and we just had so many questions about kind of politics. And yeah, he was just, you know how Akala is, he's so sick, so amazing. So yeah, Akala, in terms of him as a rapper, as an educator. Yeah, he's a big influence. Yeah, those are the guys.
Yeah, man.
You know what? I give a shout out to some grime artists as well, because I was a proper grime head. Guys like Gets, Gets, Chipmunk, lyricist, Wretch 32, big lyricist. Yeah, I listen to them a lot.
Right, cool, man, cool. So, do you have like a particular approach to how you like write stuff, or is it like more like it comes from a feeling, and then you know what's your kind of your process?
It's kind of messy, I won't lie, at the moment, and I'm trying to refine it into making it a bit more kind of refined, but it does come from like either a personal experience or something that I'm passionate about. Whether it's Black history, an experience with the police, seeing how kind of social environments are in the area I work and live in.
Yeah.
And then I will try and kind of create a story with that, as well as maybe drawing on some academic insights or things to try and affirm my viewpoint. And it's all kind of stored in my phone on the notes section, and it's
classic.
Going back to it as the days go on, as the months go on. Sometimes I won't edit it for a month or two, and that'll bring new insight. But I wanna develop that aspect of how I create a poem and maybe brainstorm a bit more, because sometimes I think back, I could have done this, I could have said this. Maybe if I gave myself a bit more time to think and to brainstorm, I could have developed it a bit more. If that makes sense.
It's a really hard one though as well, because you gotta like draw the line at some point. You could always be like going back and like changing like slightest phrase and stuff. But yeah, I listened to it earlier on, man. I was going through Instagram, and it was so moving. Like it honestly, some of it like hurt. It was so real. I was like, holy fuck, in a good way, you know.
Yeah,
it was just beautiful to listen to. And yeah, would you say it's like a 50-50 thing between like personal experience and like watching from other people as well?
100%. Yeah. So kind of growing up in Ardwick, it's an area with like a history of gang and gun violence, drug use, and high levels of deprivation, low education, and seeing how kind of the community, members of the community, have been conditioned to think in a certain way. My experiences of kind of not necessarily being fully involved in that, but having certain brushes, but thankfully being able not to get too deep, and then being able to critically think about kind of the environment. I was fortunate enough to volunteer at the youth project that I work in, and they were they're an important part of my critical thinking, and not necessarily getting too rooted in that way of thinking and way of acting. And then also, I have experiences in which I share and working with young people as well, hearing their stories. It is a combination of lived experience and kind of observing.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Definitely. I was gonna say, like, with some of the tracks have music as well. Do you play anything? Do you like produce any of the other side of it?
Not producing music, no. But I do find that there's a difference when I'm doing acoustic with no music, and when I am doing with music. And I think people are more drawn into my poetry with music, and I think that kind of highlights I think there's a deep spiritual thing that happens when you hear a beat and the words are also deep and meaningful, and that it kind of hits the soul a bit deeper.
I agree, man. I live for that stuff. That link between two it's like spiritual, isn't it? It's like I can't define like the feeling I get from listening, like that combination. It's like melody and words as a thing. It's just like I don't need anything more than that, man. I don't know about you guys. I'm like set if I've got that in my life. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Well, it's like the. Oh, hello,
George.
Hello, it's me.
Forgot you were there.
I was going to say, because like the first time I ever met you, Griot, was when we did that little gig at the Armour store with the Berry Blacks band.
Yeah.
And that was really fun because like we were just expecting to be a normal gig. But then we got there and it was like, oh, we've got like all these guys coming in and they're going to like do some rapping, do some spoken word stuff over the top of us. And it was 2 people stood out to me that night. It was you and a guy called Kamani Anderson, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's his name. Apologies, I'm getting it wrong. But yeah, it was just like, when I heard you playing and stuff, it was just like, it was such a refreshing viewpoint on stuff, like, and it's like putting stuff in a way that a lot of people maybe don't see. It's like a new perspective for some people, I think, is the thing that I think is really cool about it.
That's real good to hear, you know, because as a poet, you always have self-doubt.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just think, oh, this is
Dude,
crap.
as an artist, it's like it's all of the
We've all
fuckers.
been there, man. We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And like you say, different perspective, and that's what I try to do in that. There might be an audience as well. As much as I want to cater to people who may have lived the same experiences as me, there's some people who don't, and if I can help them to kind of think from the flip side of why does a young person sell drugs? Is he just because he's a criminal and he's a feral youth, or is it because, you know, he's been given the burden of being the man of the house since the age of 10, and his mom's struggling and there's bills to pay, and he just so happens to be brought up in a community where drug dealing is an easy escape and an easy means to income, you know. But yeah, different perspective.
I just wanted to go back on something you said before, just about when you're saying young people and them being like conditioned into a certain mindset.
Yeah.
Could you just sort of go a little bit deeper into what you mean by that?
So in one of my poems, I talk about being shaped by your circumstances, but liberated by your choices. And I think growing up in certain urban, predominantly black communities, there are ways that people in that community have adopted and habits, whether that's low attainment in school and education, poor eating habits with fast food, or whether it's illegal means of income. And I think these kind of ways of thinking are enriched and enrooted in the community. And as a youth worker, I find young people so easy to join that way of thinking and living, and it's until they are proposed with other means of doing stuff. So I had a conversation with a young person who was selling drugs, and then until I was like, well, have you ever thought of starting your own business where you're using the same skills as you're hustling, but in a legal means? And I don't think those avenues are either given to them as opportunities or created. And I think as a youth worker, that's things I want to try and create for young people.
Right. Cool. So what was it? So you studied Black history. Was it
that was just like
an extra thing you did?
An extra module.
So what did you study? You said before you studied some. What was it?
Yeah. So I initially studied sports development at MMU.
Yeah.
And then I then went to study youth work and theology.
And what was it? What was it that drew you towards going in that direction?
Yeah. So this was 2008. 2008 when a friend of mine who lived in the community got shot.
Right.
And at that time, that just brought a lot of questions about kind of how things are in the community, guns, gangs, and as well, at that moment, I became a Christian as well. and I thought I was volunteering at my youth project at the time, and I just thought I wanna do something which is more positive for my community.
Yeah.
And then I enrolled in University of Manchester to study youth work, and my youth project gave me a placement there where I learned youth work, informal education, and it was just I loved it. I loved it. I thought like this is definitely for me.
Cool, man. Cool. And in terms of like the stuff that you're doing, is it M13?
M13, yeah.
So what sort of stuff do you do there with the young people?
Yeah. So we kind of support them through all aspects of their life issues, whether it's school, personal life, finding employment, spiritual development. We go out into the community, something called detached work, where we're out walking in the community, building relationships. From there, we're trying to support them with projects, thinking how can they make positive life choices, getting them into different projects. So done a politics project, done anything which is kind of in relation to their needs, and helps them take positive action in their life. So last year we just did a Black History project where we did 4 weeks of learning about Black history, and then invited some prominent young Black people who were doing major things in the community to come and have a sit-down discussion. And loads of bunch of stuff we do.
Yeah.
But everything is aimed to kind of give young people opportunity to develop.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
It sounds like really rewarding work.
It really is.
That's great, man. For the people at home, where can they find you online? Because I'm sure they're interested in you.
Yeah. So on Instagram and Facebook, so it's Griot _Gabriel.
Cool.
You can check me out on there.
Sweet, man. Sweet. So in terms of, I'm just going back to your writing and stuff. When do you decide when a poem is done? Because Matt was saying like you can always come back and like when do you think right that's that one banked?
Yeah. That's a very good question. Very good question. Because there was a recent poem I did, and I released it, and I thought, nah, that wasn't done. And then I think it needs a part 2 because I probably needed to expand on certain stuff. But yeah, it is a very good question. I was initially gonna say you kind of know when it's done, but I guess you don't. I just said you don't know.
Just said. Yeah.
But yeah, initially I tried to think about kind of length and time, so maybe about 3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
And kind of how I do my poems, I kind of draw. I like to draw the listener in with maybe an initial story or a plot.
Right.
Explain, and then kind of wrap it up nicely in a, now go off and think and ponder with the kind of the question set or the answer set.
Okay.
And if I can get that theme across, I think that's when I know it's done.
Okay. Cool. I just thought it was interesting because obviously like when you're like writing with music there is like a structure. Do you know what I mean? Like you kind of get an idea of when something's finished. Yeah. But it's interesting with the just writing the words. In terms of like what you're wanting to do in the future, are you looking to do more stuff? Because I've seen on your Instagram you've done some more stuff with music. Where was that little studio that you're in?
Oh, my secret.
Okay.
Never revealed myself. It's a nice little studio, let's just say.
Yeah, that's right, man. Are you like thinking about doing more stuff with music like that, or?
It is a combination of definitely with music, but also sometimes I feel like just with the lyrics. Sometimes allows the listener just to focus on the lyrics.
Right.
And as good as a melody is, I don't want them to be lost in the melody, because I think with kind of the way music is set up, hip hop in general, sometimes you can just lose yourself to the beat. There's a lot of crap being said, and it goes over their heads into their consciousness, and they're not actually focused on the lyrics. It's just the beat. And so I'm always caught in this tension of I want the audience to listen to my lyrics, and if I can find a beat which supports that, that's even better. A combination of just me as a lyricist with no beat, but also with an effective beat that can aid the lyrics.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that I'd fall in the category of listening to the music more.
I do that, man.
I don't know if
I
that's
do
just
that.
because like we trained as musicians, so we've got that. We kind of
It's in our head.
yeah we're conditioned to do that by nature. You know, you can be sitting listening to a song on the radio and just work out the chord progression in your head, you know. And then you find out that you're not listening to what's being said. But the other side of that, I guess, is also like a lot of the music that we ingest is pop music, you know, like chart music where nothing is really being said.
It's vapid shite.
It's just words that sound nice.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's it.
And accompanied by banging music.
Yeah.
So,
Fat donks.
And a girl shaking a big booty or something.
Exactly.
I'd say that I'd fall guilty of not listening to what people are saying. Like when I listen to any sort of rap and hip hop, I don't really listen to what's being said.
It's more, I get that as well. It's definitely more the rhythm of,
and the feel of the track. And that kind of side of things. You know.
Yeah.
That's just what I take from it.
Yeah, but that's why your thing's so important. And like, I love how you always come back to education as the first thing, isn't it? It's like, I'm gonna paraphrase now because I can't remember the exact line he said, but something about like, it's like broadening your mind. That's the way out, isn't it? That's like the key. That's like your salvation or whatever. And it does beg the question, like, why the hell is it not just like a massive integral part of education? Like just the way our country actually works is very we've been talking about this sort of thing a lot, obviously, since the Black Lives Matter rallies and all that sort of thing, like but I don't think anyone's still got like close to that answer yet about like why is it not a bigger part of our education. Do you see what I mean?
Very good question.
I'd love to hear your take on it.
I think it's a fear of actually facing the reality of the country's relationship to injustice, especially around black people. And that's looking at slavery, colonization, SOS laws, everything from then. But the UK, I think, does a very good job in pretending it didn't exist.
It does, wow.
Even to the point when M13 were doing our own Black History kind of curriculum project, it was difficult to find stories of racism in the UK, like big stories, or also maybe stories of where black leaders had excelled. It was all when we look at the UK curriculum, it's Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. It's American stories, as if it just happened there. It didn't happen in the UK, but there are tons of stories once you start doing your research, which is not necessarily taught in schools, of how black people had to resist racism, how they challenged it. But again, the UK, I don't think the UK want to acknowledge it. Even to the point where the UK, what's his name? Cameron. I don't know. I think, has he apologized for slavery in, I think, like 2009? Or it was difficult for him to apologize because the ramifications of that might lead to reparations to the black children of slaves. And again, I think it's a difficult task for UK to acknowledge, and hence why we have this tension which is going on today with Black Lives Matter, with Harry and Meghan.
Oh God.
So I think it's showing its head now because it has to be shown. But until kind of the UK, those in power, the middle class actually acknowledge it, then there's always going to be tension. In the rearing of its head.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it? Such a big question. Like, where do you think we need to start in terms of like changing people's attitudes? Do you think it starts in education, or do you think it starts in politics, in government? Where do you think? Obviously, it needs to be a combination of a lot of different things. But like, it's like you said, it's such a big task. So where do you even begin?
So again, in my M13 Black History project, we invited 3 people from our community to talk about the same issue. And it was Junior, I'm going to shout him out, Junior Akinola, Alice Spencer and Latoya. They each gave an answer, which I always remember to this day. It talked about representation in the workplace, in every aspect of society, that people need to see black and brown faces, and those people that have voices and things to say need to be put on a pedestal, need to be seen, need to be heard, and not in a tokenistic way. Education was the other point made, in that in schools, in the curriculum, there has to be honest and a truthful exploration of the UK's involvement historically in the injustice of black people, and it has to be faced, and the consequences of that, whatever it is, whether it's guilt or shame, deal with it. And the other one was to challenge. So when there are injustices, we have to be able to challenge and not just kind of internalize it and deal with it, but we shouldn't be afraid to challenge and to speak up against social injustice. Yeah. So yeah, I take that with me, kind of, as you can see, as a I like to define it as representation, educate, and challenge.
Okay.
Yeah, hope that makes sense.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's funny. Around the time of the whole Black Lives Matter thing. When was that? Last year? Was it a year ago now? Last summer?
For
maybe?
white people, just last year. For black people, it's been our whole life. Oh, the struggle continues. But you know what? With this whole COVID thing, you kind of forget whether it was last year or the year before.
Time feels very odd, doesn't it?
I'm generally. I think it was last year when George Floyd.
We went last, weren't we?
Yeah, it was definitely during COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it encouraged me to do some further reading and what have you. And I thought I'd had like a pretty balanced education. Like you say, like you learn about the American civil rights. You do, learn about things, the horrible things in the Boer War and stuff. I was like, okay, I feel like I've had a pretty balanced education about what's going on. And then, like you said, like when you actually read in to like the British history of it's unbelievable that they don't even include it. Yeah, it's whitewashed. Yep. It's horrible. Yep. It's really disgusting that they don't even. That it's not even considered. Okay, it's such a huge part of our history and our community, and like what. We're a nation of like a mix of loads of people from all over the world, and we're built on that. And even though some of it's horrible and dark, it's like we have to acknowledge that it happened.
I think if society knew in general the history, it would then change how people would see current society.
Yeah, definitely.
You could see there was there's a backdrop as to why things are the way they are, and I think once people are educated, it would change the whole narrative. But yeah, I think like you say, it starts from top down. You talked about kind of political, doesn't start at politics. I think politicians and policies have to permit for those changes to happen in terms of education, and yeah, I'm a believer in educating people, because I think. We're not born racist. We're taught to be racist, and in the same way, you can be taught not to be a racist. I had a white friend who he didn't understand the concept of being pro-black. He saw being pro-black as being anti-white, and we'd have loads of conversations. And I'm like, no, I'm just trying to uplift the blackness, because it's been so kind of denigrated for years. It's like, no, you're anti-white, you're against white people, and he just go on and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
And I mean, only after kind of the experience of George Floyd and him also being educated, he come up to me and was like, yo, I apologize, I understand now. I see the injustices. Right. Before I couldn't. It was my white fragility that stopped me. And I think, ultimately, I don't think we want a society of black and white people clashing heads. We want people to understand our struggle, stand with us, and to advocate for us with us against the evil, which is racism. So yeah, I'm an advocate for education, but also if it comes a time when people are willingly being ignorant, when that tension comes, you gotta suit up like Captain America says.
Yeah, one of the most painful things to witness in that whole time, and this is coming from like a middle class white dude. Do you know what I mean? But seeing this thing like the all lives matter thing.
Oh yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. It's like, that's because you're white. You cannot, I don't think I'm not a genius here or anything, man. I don't think I'm going crazy, but I think like the whole reason that you're unable to see it is because you're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the infuriating thing. And again, it's like you have to educate people, and like if people are kind of like that, have that kind of fragile thing of like if they feel challenged, they want to like turn on it and like maybe try and come up with an argument why it's not that simple or something like that. But for me, it's like the whole point is like, for the time being, white people kind of need to be challenged. Until like, I don't think that's crazy to say. It's like I'm absolutely fine with feeling like challenged right now because that's the way out of it, isn't it? It's got to be the only way out of it. But.
And it reminds me of I know we were talking about Piers Morgan the other day, just before, his fragility of being challenged on national TV and then him storming out, which is typical white fragility in that once you're being challenged about your racism, either you claim reverse racism or kind of exit the situation and try create a imagery of you being a victim in the situation. But really you gotta sit down in it, embrace it, admit it, and work with those feelings ultimately.
Yeah, man, definitely. I was gonna ask you a question. I don't know if it's a bit, I don't know. I'm just gonna ask it.
Yeah.
Do you feel, and I feel like this, that particularly with the summer when all this Black Lives Matter, the old George Floyd thing, do you think, I feel like a lot of people kind of jumped on the bandwagon and then after like a month or so, they fucked off again? Is that just me, or like I feel like there was a lot of like, do you know what I mean? Like people like putting their fucking the pictures on, and it's like, whoa, we're standing with you, and then after a month, it's like, where are you? You're gone.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because the worst thing we want is it to be seen as like a photo opportunity.
Yeah,
exactly.
Even though it brought a lot of attention. The aim of the game is for long-term change, and I think people do need to be, if they're invested in it, they need to be able to challenge racism, not just on the stage in front of a camera with a sign and a placard. It's when you go to work and your manager is acting a certain way to the black or brown person, how are you going to challenge that racism? When you see, I don't know, if you're a teacher and you see a teacher who gets all the naughty children together who so happen to be black in the bottom set, and they're not giving them the same attention as other students, how are you going to challenge that kind of racism, everyday racism? When, I don't know, an old lady walks across the road, when she sees, the one I love is when I'm walking down the road and an old white person will close the door when I walk past because they're fearful. I mean,
Jesus.
How's the little microaggressions? How are we going to work with that? How are we going to deal with that? And that's where people need to put their energy in challenging racism, I think, as well as the protests, because it's all part of the same struggle.
Would you say there's like a correlation between age and this is a weird question, but like the likelihood someone would have those kind of mindsets, like, because it's a certain level of like toxic behavior and just being like out of touch with the real world.
I think that's a truth in that. Maybe people from our older generation have certain things that they would seem as norms. Like I was on a first day training session last year, and the guy doing it, he was talking about how he saw an accident happen and he had to do first aid on a young girl, and he called her a collared young girl. Now, for him, I know the term collared back in the 60s was probably the term used to describe black or brown people, but for us, that's a racial slur. Yeah. So I had to speak to him during the break, and I was like, "That's if you wanna, just call her black, don't call her collared." But yeah, there's definitely an age thing, but also you find that there's also racism which has been passed down to generations as well. So maybe tensions between white working class males with black working class males as well, right. And how certain narratives have been pushed that the reason why white working class young males are in poverty is because black people, the immigrants, are taking your jobs, and that is also a narrative which has been passed down from kind of political government from the top down. So as well as it being an age thing, I also think it's also a politically charged narrative as well, and things that you find politicians, TV presenters also hold as well and push.
Yeah.
Do you feel that like the media has changed over the past few years as a result of the Black Lives Matter movement? Like the media has always had a very, I think, paints a bad picture in a lot of ways. You know, if there's you talked about M13's got a bad reputation or had a bad reputation, and I think the media does play up those reputations and the stigmas of certain areas and make things sound a lot worse than they actually are. But I feel like it's slightly changing. It's not going as bad as it was, but it's going worse in different ways, the media. You know, it's going down different routes, but you know, it needs to come from the media as well. You know, there's the other side of the top down. Like, if you've got politics on one side, the media's on the other side.
Yeah. Totally agree.
I think to praise people as well. You know.
Sorry, say that.
You got to praise people as well.
There has to be an honest representation of what's happening. So you can't just highlight the negatives. So I remember Akala talking about how we don't hear that kind of the smartest girl in the UK is a 7-year-old who has the IQ of Einstein and has got all her GCSEs by the age of 6. Those narratives pushed of educated immigrant families, as well as the imagery of young black fog stabs. Both representations have to be honest, and I think when you say the media slightly changed, 10 years ago, would Piers Morgan have been challenged by ITV on his kind of racial slur? Or was it racial? Was it about mental health? I don't know. But would there have been such an uproar 10, 15 years ago? Probably not. And there's this kind of cancel culture, which can be good, can be bad, but when it's used appropriately, I think challenging and cancelling people who do spout kind of racist ideology is good. But yeah, I think the media have to do it from both ways. They have to represent, give an authentic representation of what's happening in the black community. But yeah, that's important.
We actually have a question from Nyasha.
Okay.
Sorry if I'm not saying that right. It's actually a similar question. Do you think the protest last year has impacted UK politics and policy?
Jeez.
Getting all the questions today, man.
It's a tough one. It's probably too soon to say for politics side of things. It's hard to challenge that, especially at
under the
current situation.
Yeah, I think what it has done, it's brought the conversation to the mainstream, and the uncomfortable conversations are being had in places where previously it wouldn't. It would just be done in echo chambers of black communities. But I think the conversation is being had in all the major kind of arenas in society, whether it's healthcare and racism, whether it's education in the schools and having an honest curriculum, whether it's whatever institution there is. I think the conversation is being had, and parts of society are actually clocking onto what's going on. Maybe there is an injustice here. So yeah, I think as a society we're slowly consciously being kind of awakened to what's happening, and you know it's been how many years of that change happening. I think that the next step is political change and accurate representation and education and policy from the top down, because ultimately that's where the change is going to be, from the top down.
Yeah, and it's such a hard one with the media as well, because when you're reading, especially like now, you have all these different headlines just flying, and you can just see them in a second, and it's like people need to be really, really conscious of how much they're trusting things and where that media is coming from.
Yeah.
What agenda the people writing it have. Yeah. And like if the headline's something about Meghan Markle, and I mean you'd have to be like quite a moron to believe a lot of the stuff that's actually going on. Let's face it.
You know what? This is what I like to do when I'm bored. I go on the Daily Mail and I look through the comments.
I do that, man.
You's a idiot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So many dumb idiots in society.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's just like an absolute, like fucking festering. Like,
you know what I quite like to do? I like going on Daily Mail, right? Going onto it, but then this is the secret part, right? You go down to the comments.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Juicy.
You should just every now and again just drop a little thing about. Do you know what I mean? Like, just a little thing, and just leave it to simmer for 3 hours, and come back and just watch the shit stall. It's just like these offended like middle class. People must do that, man. They must just like wait on Daily Mail for the next comment to come through and just
It's sad.
It's really sad.
Man.
It's sad.
People have too much time on their hands, and there's no responsibility. You know, like people can say what the hell they want, can't they?
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, and it's also it's quite a dangerous thing as well. There's no repercussions at all. I can't say I've ever been on the Daily Mails.
Yeah, the Daily Mail's good. The Sun's good. Even BBC.
Put it in context.
Yeah, like
it's good to read stupid comments and ignorant people.
Yeah, don't quote me on that.
We're going to take that as a soundbite. Yeah, I'll give that a go if I'm ever bored.
That's great.
Yeah. You know what? I think it's time that we hear some of your poetry.
Cool.
So for the people at home, Griot came in earlier on and he did a couple of his poems. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. I'm just going to let you watch it and enjoy it. Is there anything you want to say to the audience at home before they see it?
No, just hope you enjoy it. Hope it resonates. I hope it creates new thinking.
Cool, man. Cool. All right. We'll be back in about 10 minutes or something. So I hope you enjoy Griot's performance, and we'll be back talking a little bit more in a bit. So we'll see you in a sec. Bye.
Bye.
I'm Griot Gabriel, and this spoken word is about an experience I had with the police growing up. This spoken word is about the time I got stopped and searched by police. So many instances I could pick out by the age of 18, but this recent one sticks out due to Officer 14731's blatant cheek. All the while I considered complaining to the IOPC, but I knew that nothing would get done, nothing would come of it. So I thought I'd share my experiences of racist policing uncovering. You see, I was parked up in a German whip, and he pulls up. He must have thought I was waiting to pick up or drop bricks, because he jumps out and says, "We're searching your car." I replied, "Good luck. You'd be lucky to find a spliff," trying to explain my position to his racist suspicions. But my words were a myth. So now we scuffle. And eventually I'm propped up against the curb after the struggle. Being a victim of the PACE Act stop and search, this ain't America. But UK feds can get rowdy, and I don't want to be remembered when I'm laying in a hearse. I'm forced to take the trauma. All the while I remember Mumsy's words. Melanin is a gift, my son, not a curse. So try and imagine the anger that inflamed. I felt like a slave the way they had me in cuffs, handling rough, feeling ashamed, knowing that fighting back would leave me fucked. So then the lion's rage had to be tamed, because it had to be due to the colour of my skin. They called me an icy free male. Alongside the fact that I was in an urban community with barbed wires and fences that impale. Or maybe my car was far too luxurious, so consequently my Audi A4 made him curious, pulling up in front of me like, can I have your details? It was as though the 4 circles of the Audi symbol was enough to divide any reasonable logic. Now I find myself in the 2 circles of handcuffs. It tightens as he locks it. He's scrummaging through my pockets. He don't think I know, but I know it. He's trying to find some incriminating evidence in a system set to make profit by me being a statistic to the prison industrial complex. Yeah, the system's fucked. Because the lust for wealth supersedes the love for good, so private prisons seek to lock up miseducated black boys from the hood. Now I could tell he thought my words were a lie. Because every word I said to the officer was followed by sighs, claiming my story was fabricated fiction filled with false alibis. But just like 85% of stop and searches in the UK, it was pointless. The only thing he created is more frustration to the voiceless because my story is nothing new. I ain't the first black male nor the last to be discriminated against. I just wanted my words to be heard so Officer 14731 could know that he possibly holds on to racist tendencies that are absurd. And he can begin to unlearn what's taught through institutions and silently through society, you see. It's one thing to listen, and it's totally another thing to be heard. Because Officer 14731 has probably heard the rhetoric of racial profiling, but hasn't genuinely listened to the voice behind the person he's harassing is frightening because you paint us all with the same brush. Now that's dangerous. Because when we call you all pigs, you say there's good police out there and you should learn not to hate us. But why would we put our trust in a system with an insidious motive to cage us? Or worse still, you try to demonize our character to justify reasons to frame or blame us. So Officer 14731, the irony is that you say we play the blame game far too often. But if I'm being truthfully, brutally honest, I think your racist policing is the problem. And that's where the story ends. Until I get stopped and searched again. Griot Gabriel. The next poem is it's a remake from Tupac's The Rose That Grew From Concrete. Check it out. So ask me how it came to be that the seed of the rose was sown upon the harsh realities of concrete. Or ask me how it came to be that most black and brown people are raised in a place that is crazed in deprivation and poverty. See, the rose is I and the rose is you. And this concrete is the place that we were forced to live through. This concrete was systematically formed by policies and unjust laws pressed upon the face of the poor by those in power, living blissfully unaware of the terrors that affect us, the flowers. The concrete is hard, the concrete is cold. Once cemented in the mind, it's never impossible to remold. The concrete resides as single moms raising Afro-Caribbean and British sons, praying their children ain't slain by the shady slums. If daddy's never there, I ask you, what is little Junior likely to become? This concrete? It's a place where brothers reject the paper and pen to get emancipated minds. They neglect their intellect, but they respect the pen, only when it's a consequence to crime. The concrete sees poverty and tries to make us poorer. No wonder we get sucked by the bookies on every street corner. The concrete resides in many unemployed that are deemed unimportant. So the chances for change are shortened. We're the ones shortchanged and still enforce chains. Recipients of a welfare state designed to keep the poor depraved, unable to challenge the corrupt displayed, because how can you bite the hand that feeds the slave? You see, the concrete's aim is to divide and rule. Keep the peasants fighting peasants so they remain above us all. If roses are red and violets are blue, we even divide the shrubs. In other words, the violets are crips at war with the roses' bloods, with more in common with your brother than what divides them. But the insanity of the concrete has done well to blind them. This concrete constrains, the concrete contains, the concrete tries to turn an inferno into a flame, the concrete conceals truth by conspiring lies, the concrete constructs hate, hoping our conclusion dies, the concrete condemns us for post-Cold Wars, but yet the concrete commends colonization so other countries are forced to conform. The concrete's conditions are conducive of a consciousness constricted to cope, but if the rose could still grow from the concrete to reach the sun, then I guess in the rose, there's still hope. The rose that rose from concrete, don't ask it why. Just thank God and ask it how. So how? How could you still grow in an urban community when you're 5 times more likely to go to jail than university? How could you still grow when the elders would teach the youngest how to sell bags of crack, sell weed, blaze zoots, handle the liquor, if not items jacked, protect the ends with a loaded strap? You see, the rose still rose through the dirt and the mud. And the rose knew its worth through the hurt and the blood. Sweat and tears throughout the years. You see, the rose still had fears. The rose was scared rough. But Mummy and Grandma Rose would stay up and pray to God that the concrete wouldn't tear up the precious little seed that they were trying to rear up. But somehow, in the process of transformation, the rose realized that the reality of the concrete, aka the hood, was not the fullness of life. That past the beef and the straps and the gats and the knives, that past the false ideas of being a man and internalized lies, despite the fact the rose only had gangsters to play the role of fathers. The rose did not belong in darkness. And the rose rose to a glorious light. Feeling rays of warmth penetrate dark clouds within his soul, the concrete cracked, and there he triumphantly stands, identified as a man, knowing that being comfortable with vulnerability is the ultimate strength. May the concrete crack at a legion of roses bursting forth, awakened by the truth that we are all roses, ready to grow from the concrete. And while they tried to bury us, they didn't know we were seeds, for we were the roses that grew from a crack in the concrete. Thank you. You can find me on Griot Gabriel, Instagram, Facebook, a lot more spoken word. Follow me on the journey. Griot Gang.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 12 of the Kicking Back podcast. You've just heard some poetry from the wonderful Griot Gabriel. Thank you for coming in and doing that, man. I really enjoyed it. How did you find performing in our tiny little studio?
Oh, it's real nice. It's a nice setup, you know.
It's
real nice, real comfy.
Yeah, man. I think we've tricked people. Although we had a guest on the other week, I think basically just completely broke the immersion. Like people who like coming in, was like, oh yeah, I thought it was in like some like fancy little house or something. It's like, no, it's in our garage.
George once like accidentally flip the camera up as well? It's like, oh
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just see like the shitty ceiling and all that. No, yeah, thank you so much for coming and doing that, man. It was a pleasure to edit and watch over and over again.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Man. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about what each poem was about and that?
So the first one, which I called Officer 14731, was a personal experience of me being stopped and searched by police, being in my car, and them just coming over, saying, "What you doing?" Yeah. We're searching your car for drugs, and I'm like, "Whoa, hold up, what's going on here?" And yeah, I think I tried to explain or think through the officer's mind in terms of how that one experience has probably been shaped by his kind of thinking in terms of being in a community like Ardwick Longside, as well as seeing a guy with a decent car and me being black, how his kind of mental construct has been shaped by a lot of racial classist undertones. And it was me trying to push back against those things through my words. And like I talk about not wanting to complain to the IOPC because I knew that nothing would get done, nothing would come of it, because this isn't the first time this has happened, it's not the last, but that's how much little faith I have in the system to find any justice in it or to see any fault in his actions. So for me, writing was the only way I could at least get some kind of freedom, some justice in his collar number. That was that first poem. And the second one was based off a poem that Tupac did, which was called "The Rose That Grew from Concrete." And I remember hearing it, and he was just talking about how the rose, which is such a beautiful power, grows through the hardships of concrete, and that being a representation of kind of like black people in communities that they live in. And yeah, mine was just a more of a deeper exploration of that, and that the concrete tries to hold us back, but we are roses able to grow from the concrete. As you can see, you got it on my t-shirt as well. T-shirts shall be coming soon.
Nice.
They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds, for we were the roses that grew from a crack in the concrete.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of like the stories of those poems.
Nice, man. Yeah. They're great. Once again, if people want to find your stuff online, just give them a sweet little plug. Where would that be?
So it's Griot_Gabriel. That's GRIOT_Gabriel. GABRIEL on Instagram and Facebook.
Cool. So in terms of what you're planning to do next, have you got anything in the pipeline for what you want to do this year?
I think this year is just a year of releasing a lot of poems, a lot of spoken word, and because I still feel like the momentum I have now has only probably been just 4 or 5 months of pushing stuff hard.
Okay.
And I feel like if I can at least get another year of sharing a lot of my stuff out, from there, I mean, who knows? I haven't identified specifically what I want to do, but sharing my poetry, and hopefully when COVID restrictions are lifted, I can perform at venues and with people, with an audience. So that's my goal, just sharing as much stuff.
Cool. Are you ever thinking about like doing like collaborative stuff with other arts and stuff? Have you done any of that sort of stuff before?
Have I? No, I don't. I've had a few people ask me, and I've had a few local rappers from the ends ask me to do stuff with them. Nothing's really material. You know what's funny? I was trying to say this word today, and I struggled. Materialized.
There you go. Got it.
The wordsmith. But yeah, those things can happen, and I'm open to working with other artists. Definitely.
Following on from that, like, have you with the youth work, have you got like some of the younger guys like get into the spoken word thing and trying to like teach them or like show them the ropes of it?
You know what? That's something I'd love to do, but I've always not wanted to come across like I'm forcing the young people to do something that they might not want to. I mean, they know I do poetry. They listen to my poetry. A lot of them are more into kind of rapping or MCing. So we give out we give the platform for that, kind of hire out studio, giving them opportunities to spit bars. But yeah, in terms of me teaching, I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet. But again, if a young person just shows interest in that, I'm more than willing to share my experience, my knowledge with them.
Awesome, man.
I over the start of lockdown, and for like maybe like 6 or 8 months, I volunteered at the Booth Centre.
Okay.
And it was like
is that
Cheetham
a homeless charity?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Cheetham Hill kind of way, and yeah. So as part of that, it was just like activity things going on, and just like helping out homeless people. That was my first experience reading out poetry. Cause I was helping out to do. I wasn't supposed to be doing it. I was just supposed to be like, like making coffees and stuff. But one of the guys was struggling with it, so I like sat down and helped out. And I ended up like getting put on the spot to like getting filmed doing my like,
nice.
like 8 lines of spoken word. I was
nice.
like, and it's hard. Like you make it look easy, but it is.
Let me tell you something, yo. That process is hard, yo. Sometimes I sat down and I have an idea of what I want, and I'm just like, how am I gonna explain this? And a lot of the times when I put it to bed, when I leave it and I come back to it, that's when the inspiration comes. Or a lot of the time, I find myself jogging and I'll have a light bulb moment, or in the shower. Strangely enough, I know that's an old cliche saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be difficult, and then for me, memorizing the lyrics as well.
Yeah, what I was going to ask you, like, how do you remember like all these words? And stuff?
Repetition deepens the impression. So I'll just be repeating. You might, if people see me on my everyday kind of activity, I'm just talking to myself, and that's me reciting lyrics, just talking to myself. People was like, "What you doing? Are you crazy?" I'm like, "No, I'm just talking to myself, just reciting lyrics." And yeah, also kind of structuring poems in a way where each kind of end of a paragraph or a section, that is a hook into the next part. So a lot of the time I'm just remembering the hooks, and it's just a bunch of hooks going into the next part.
I was going to ask as well, like in terms of like the rhythms and stuff, how set is that stuff, or do you flex with it?
Yeah, I like to flex with it.
Right.
I like to flex. So there might be kind of, standard, but sometimes I might just go off and just go off. So I've just go off. Just one of those. Sometimes you want to stick to a beat or a pattern, but sometimes you just go off. Just
cool. And do you ever do stuff like just like off the cuff, like it just
freestyle
comes to your head, like
Yeah, quite often.
Okay,
Quite often there might just be a lyric that comes on, and then I'm running with that lyric. So like today, I was looking in the mirror and I thought, shit, my bed don't connect. I was like, I'm 30, my bed don't connect, and then that streamed into a piece about masculinity. About the idea, the man has a big beard, full of testosterone, which is kind of like the chemical which allows hair to grow. And I thought, okay, I know I'm a man, so maybe I can try and deconstruct kind of myths about masculinity, and maybe create a perception of a man doesn't have to be all these things, but he's still a man, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that was proper random.
Just from looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. That's amazing that your mind works like that. That's really cool, man. We should probably do our little Fooditions plug, shouldn't we? Seeing as they're on the table right here. So for the people at home, we are doing a collaboration with a wonderful company called Fooditions Daily. They're an Instagram company and they make delightful little treats. So Griot, you said you wanted cookie dough stuff. So here we have. So if you want one, man, I think that the white one's the Oreo one. So if you don't want that one, bro, that's fine.
This one looks like the chocolate chip.
So we're gonna have an uncooked one and a cooked one as well, I think. Okay. Matt, would you like one?
Yes, I will.
But yeah, so we're working with these guys, and basically they're going to be doing like food deliveries for when we're doing the streams on Wednesday evenings. So if you guys want to have some delightful little treats, then go onto their Instagram page. They're going to be doing what they're doing next week, James. Do you know? Was it some sort of? Oh, it was like the muffins, wasn't it?
Doing some muffins.
Raspberry something muffins, weren't they?
I have the picture, which will come after.
Oh yeah, and for the people who watch at home, you're watching our delightful little promo video that we did. A bit of food porn, just for your enjoyment. But yeah, the stuff that these guys make is really, really good. How is it?
Lovely.
Yeah, you enjoying it, Matt?
Yeah, great, man. I'm trying not to eat the whole thing.
I was going to say, have you eaten it already?
No, don't worry, man.
Wolfed it down. Yeah, James, do you want to tell them what people can have next week?
Sure. So next week, Fooditions have raspberry and white chocolate muffins to go with our artist for next week.
Sorry, I'm eating.
Which is Bonnie Kemp.
It's Bonnie Kemplay.
Bonnie Kemplay. Who she chose that as her dessert of choice.
I like this one. I like this collaboration of music and food.
Man. You can't go wrong with that.
No, man. It's beautiful.
You should check out Fooditions' Instagram. They pair a lot of pieces of music with different meals, not just desserts. But I think, you can go on there and check it out. Fooditions.daily. So next week, they have raspberry and white chocolate chip muffins. They're £1 each or £3.50 for 4. You can DM or email them by Tuesday, 16th of March. It's at fooditions.daily or fooditions@gmail.com. Collections within M16 area, M16 8LW on Wednesday, 17th of March, same day as our podcast.
Yeah.
Or they do offer free delivery if you're unable to collect and live within a 3-mile radius of M16. But you have to spend at least £3. There are vegan options available.
Oh, really?
Also,
what now, James?
if you're one of the people viewing right now with your cookie doughs, if you post an Instagram story of yourself enjoying your muffins and tag Fooditions Daily and RecRooms, then you could win yourself some free muffins.
Wow.
Next week.
It's all happening.
And they'll be continuing that, so next week if you do a story of you eating next week's food, which is raspberry and white chocolate chip muffins.
Do they want an actual video of you eating it, or because that could get quite weird?
I think Instagram posiness is
okay, right, yeah.
Make
it
the before
arty.
picture is probably best, probably not the after.
Yeah, okay, not the aftermath. Okay, cool, awesome.
So, yeah, great.
That was a great plug, James.
Thank you.
You're built for radio. Yes, you are.
I've got a face for radio.
So yeah, please go and check these guys out, fooditionsdaily.com. Also go and check out Griot's music. And whilst you're on the internet, follow us on RecRooms on Instagram. We've got our new website, recrooms.co.uk. And subscribe to us on YouTube because we're going to be... This is where we're going to be hosting our live streams, where we're going to be putting up people's performances. We're going to be doing a new series soon as well, and we're also going to be doing another RecRooms series, hopefully, if restrictions are gone, whenever, So yeah, please go and subscribe on there. Yeah, we enjoyed the sweet treats, gentlemen.
Yeah, real nice, real nice.
Good, right, Griot, I'm going to ask you a question now. Not all that's out the way with. I was going to ask this everyone. Desert Island discs.
Okay.
So we're normally 4 or 5. You're stuck on a desert island. We don't know how long for. What sort of 4 or 5 albums would you take with you?
Albums,
or it also, or it can be like a greatest hits album, or like a club. You know what I mean? It can be 4 or 5 collections of things.
Well, maybe I'll pick 5 artists and then I'll take all their all their albums and tracks. But Tupac, definitely. Definitely Tupac. This might sound strange to some, but Tracy Chapman.
You got a soft spot for Tracy Chapman.
I got a soft spot for Tracy Chapman. Yeah. She is amazing voice for a country singer. And her music is, again, relevant even today.
Is there a particular, because I only know the obvious.
Fast Car.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It is a tune, man.
I'm sorry. That's like people
all anyone knows.
Yeah.
Is there a particular album or something that I should check out?
Well, her album, the one I listened to growing up as a kid that my mum had, was just called Tracy Chapman.
Okay.
But there's a song on there called Last Night.
Right.
It's an acoustic, just her, amazing.
Okay.
Probably one of the best songs I've ever heard. It's called Last Night. As well as Fast Car, Revolution is also a great track.
You'll know that one, man. That's like a classic, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Baby, Can I Hold You Tonight? So that's Tracy Chapman.
Yeah.
Is that the same album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boyzone did a cover. Not as good. Not as good. Tracy Chapman. Someone else. I got Nas.
Right. I don't know that much Nas stuff. So again, I'm going to ask you, what would you recommend?
Nas, If I Ruled the World. I Can. New York State of Mind. One Mic. It's amazing.
Okay.
Anything that's Nas, he's sick.
Okay. Just dive in.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Nas feat Damian Marley, Road to Zion, amazing. UK, anything Chipmunk, I got to give it to Chipmunk.
Okay, yeah.
He's sick, or Chip as he likes to be called. Wretch 32. I'm going over 5 now.
Keep going, man. If you've got more, go for it.
Wretch 32, great lyricist. There was someone else. It's bugging me now. Someone beginning with A I was thinking of.
Hey.
Bonnet. It must not have been that good enough for me.
But
those are the main guys. Biggest influences in kind of my creative thinking as well. Akala, how can I forget?
Yeah.
Right.
He's fire in the booth. He's first fire in the booth. If you want a breakdown of kind of black consciousness and class, Akala's fire in the booth. Probably 8 minutes, but so much knowledge in that.
Okay.
Amazing.
Cool. I'll check that out, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. I've completely blanked to what was going on. I literally had a question ready and my mind just went, boop. Oh my God. It's gone. It happens, man, doesn't it?
It happens, yeah.
It happens. It's crazy. Yeah. Matt, have you, come on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I mean, just a relevant question. Have you had that happen on a gig? Have you had like, good, like really nice gig experiences? And like, have you had any like really bad stories about it? I mean, we all have like all of them, you know.
I actually think the Armour Store session I did that George was at, I think for about 10 seconds I went quiet. I just went blank. And I kind of styled it out like as if it was a very ponderous, profound moment.
You got about, with that kind of thing, you got about 10 seconds. I've had it on stage before where it's like, how does this song go? And you've got about 10 seconds where like, this guy's got nothing.
Yeah. And I pulled it off. I think I did. I think I did anyway.
Yeah.
There was one time where in my early days, when I was about 18, totally forgot. I went, whoa, sorry crowd, I forgot what I said. I forgot my lines, and they all gave me a round of applause. And then I kind of had to start again to remember. But real good times. I performed at Liverpool once at an event, and the crowd were just on it, man. They were like, maybe because they were Nigerians as well, like British-born Nigerians, but I think they could resonate with my experiences, and they were just like, I left the stage thinking like, yeah, man, I'm the man. But that was real good. And, you know, you kind of get a buzz off releasing stuff on social media as well. Yeah. So when you see people reposting your stuff, commenting, like, that's a real good feeling. And that's like, you know, crossing areas as well. So many people are able to see it. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, man, definitely. What about you, Matt? What's your like worst blanking experience?
Worst blanking experience. I don't know. I mean, I've done like just hundreds and hundreds of like wedding gigs and stuff like that now. So I don't know where it was or when it was, but I definitely remember like going to start a song and just being like, I don't feel like I've ever heard this song before in my life. And then obviously the band are like waiting for you. And it's like, you have your back turned to him. He's like, I'll just wait, man. He'll come.
Someone will start.
I think I ended up just like improvising, just like taking a solo for a while. I was like, I'll come up with something.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes, sometimes when I've forgotten lyrics and I've just made stuff up, and like in that train of that passage, you kind of jump back on the train again. You're like, oh yeah, I remember where I was now. Sometimes just making stuff up.
Yeah,
and some the audience won't even know it.
Exactly.
That's it, man. And it always feels longer in your mind than it actually is. Do you know what I mean? It feels like hours, but it's,
definitely.
You know, it's only been a few seconds.
That's it. My worst gig experience ever. Not worse because it was hilarious, but in terms of like, oh geez, I thought I was like a pro musician here. What happened? I was playing at this sort of like a Butland style resort, and it was a cold like Saturday morning, about 10 o'clock, and we're playing, and it was in a field, and it was raining, and I don't even know why we were really there, but we were there for like 6 hours that day, just playing on and off, and yeah, just like loads and loads of sets, and like none of the instruments are in tune. Like it was like high and dry, like acoustic guitar like plugged straight in, so it just sounded like and another dude on shaker, and there was one guy in the audience with an umbrella on, like an old dude watching us, and he looked pretty bemused by the whole situation. I don't even know why he was there at that time in the morning, and then he left halfway through like our first song, so it's just us playing to no one, and it's not like if you've got one guy in the audience, man, you don't want him to leave, do you? Because then it's
so if you've done 100 performances or hundreds, how long have you been performing for?
It's like 7 or 8 years.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Loads and loads of just like weddings and stuff. Like most of us in this room have done that kind of thing.
Yeah.
For a lot. At some point, it's just like all I ever did was play guitar when I was younger. So I was like, all right, I can probably
make a living out of it.
Yeah. Should listen more in school.
Oh, that's hilarious, man. So are these the cooked versions?
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
You can pick whatever you want, man. Obviously, Matt, which one do you want? I had that chocolate one before. So do you want that one? And we'll try not to eat on the mic like we did last time, because I'm sure, unless people, some people like that. You know what? I was recording some sound stuff for a video the other day, and I stumbled into this whole world of like ASMR stuff. Have you ever like looked at any of that stuff? It's so weird. Like, I didn't realize people like not get off on it, but like, you know what I mean? Like, people really find it quite relaxing and stuff. Well, so people do get off on it.
You got to break down what ASMR.
Right. So it's basically like really close mic, like detailed sound. So like some of them will be like people like making a cake or something, and they just record the sounds of it, or it'll be people like whispering down a mic or reading. Okay. So it's like really small, intimate kind of. What does ASMR actually stand for?
So they had ASMR as an actual. Because I had it in school a few times. I didn't know what it was. It's basically like around the back of your neck just starts like tingling like crazy when you hear certain sounds, and it's like a relaxing feeling. It's like a legit thing, but YouTube, obviously, like the internet took it really weird from what I can tell. So like I'm aware of it as a thing, but when it's like a guy in a Big Mac real close to a mic or something, he's like, oh my god,
that is weird.
It's so strange, man. Yeah. And like people like like there's literally ones of like people like whispering things in your ears, but you can't really tell what they're saying. And it's like a few people whispering in your ears. It basically sounds like a fucking nightmare going on.
And you know what? It sounds like some white privilege stuff. There's some white people got time for that, yo.
It's like, what the I don't know. I think it's fucking weird, man. Honestly, it really put me on edge, actually. It had like the complete opposite effect. It's like, what sort of freak do you have to be to like this sort of stuff? And apologies to anyone at home that likes this stuff. But it just really, it doesn't fucking do it for me, man.
Yeah.
James, don't tell me you're one of these people. You look like you're about to say, you're not, are you?
So ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response.
Right. Okay.
It's not actually what I thought it stood for.
Okay. I
thought it was audio sensory.
Okay.
Something response.
And have you heard some of this stuff, James? Have you partaken in some of it?
No.
You look so guilty, man. You look so guilty.
Just spin the camera on him.
Guilty.
I look proper guilty.
Yeah, man. It was such a strange.
There's ASMR porn. Not that I've.
Whoa, we're going in hard today. Really?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, James, that's a very good question.
How do you not know? Come on.
It's like it's
there's
kind
so
of like
much porn out there.
Yeah.
Like.
That's a category I didn't know existed.
No, that's weird. It's not one I'm going to be going near anytime soon anyway. Jesus.
Not endorsed by this podcast.
No. Yeah, it was so strange.
It's like, you know, those head scratcher things.
Yeah.
I remember, like, that's like the best way I can describe it. Like, but it just sometimes you get that. Well, I get like through like sound or whatever, just like random. But I don't think it's something. I don't know. It's not something I like kind of just sit at home, like having my lunch, like tune into some ASMR for a while. You know,
because I could understand it through feeling or touch, like you say, getting scratched.
Yeah.
I love being scratched. That's the one. But through a sound, I'm trying to contemplate what sound would give me that feeling on it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, maybe go home and search it and see what you think.
Yeah.
I didn't do it for me, man. I think you have to be a fucking freak to like that shit, man. In my humble opinion, it was so strange.
Yeah.
So strange.
Can I just say the warm cookie though? It's nice.
Was it good? Which one did you have? Was it
chocolate chip?
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
With the heat and the warmthness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was delight. Yeah. To be fair, mine was awesome as well. So if you got them at home still, stick them in the oven. 180, 10 minutes. Jobs are good in.
Yeah.
Jobs are good in. You know what? I feel like we should probably leave it there. I think we've talked a lot of. I think we sorted the world out now.
Yeah. Now just to implement and
that's it.
Problem solved.
Yeah. What is it? Represent, educate, challenge.
Yeah.
Bam.
Still one.
Nice.
I see.
Right. Griot. If you could sum this podcast up in 3 words, what would it be?
Fun. Definitely. communion.
Nice.
I'm going to use 2 words now. Forward thinking.
Nice. Fun, communion, forward thinking.
Yeah.
I like it, man.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Matthew.
Feeling my privilege.
Nice one.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to go informative, funny. I know you already said funny, but it was pretty funny. Informative, funny, and great. There you go. Yeah. That's my 3. So one last time, Griot, where can people find your stuff online?
On Instagram or on Facebook, and actually on YouTube, Griot_Gabriel. You can find my spoken word there.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, I implore you all to please go and check out Griot stuff. It's great. If you've only just joined us in the second half, well, this episode is going to be out on Saturday, so if you want to go back and watch it, please do. Griot's performance will be out on Friday on our YouTube channel, so subscribe to us there. You'll see it all. We've got Bonnie Complete on next week. Go over to Food Editions Daily. They're going to be doing those raspberry muffin things for Bonnie's episode next week. So if you want to get yourself some of them for when you're watching the stream, then please do. Thank you very much again for coming on, Griot. It's been really, really enjoyable.
Thank you for having me.
Informative.
Yeah,
it's great. Matt, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You're a star. George, James, thank you as well. You did great, guys. Well done. So for people that are listening on the podcast at home, I hope you had a lovely day. People watching live, thank you for watching. We'll see you all next week. Have a great week. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to catch up on new episodes every week. Also, check us out on our Facebook and Instagram at RecRooms, where you can find out about our other exciting music series. We also have this and all our other episodes of the podcast up on our RecRooms YouTube channel for your viewing pleasure. See you next time.